were involved in UFC around the time Brock Lesnar was, right?
Oh, fucking hell, why'd you bring that up? Jeez, yes, I had to work with Brock Lesnar.
Oh, is that? Do you want to go into that? It sounds like
yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, it's just a pain in the ass to work. I mean, the UFC fighters, no surprise, are alpha males. Yeah, you know, they don't like being told what to do. So there's a way of approaching them. I had a reputation, rightly or wrongly, for being able to work with the problem children, you know, as they were called. So the Michael Bisping, who's a good friend of mine, the Rampage Jackson is a good friend of mine. You know, to a lesser extent, Chael Sonnen, super professional, but he would do weird things like, yeah. So Chael, I mean, Chael's a big wrestling fan. About the crossover, like he obviously he took a lot of inspiration from top wrestling, especially like wrestling heels. I mean, called himself the bad guy.
Yeah, to this day.
Yeah. So when the UFC goes city to city, you know, you don't want to go, oh shit, do we have an extra belt anywhere? No, someone's got to go back to Las Vegas to get it. So we were in Chicago, and he was fighting Michael Bisping on the co-main event. And he calls me. He goes, Ant, I'm downstairs in the UFC office. He goes, I'm in that big storage locker you guys bring. I was like, okay. What, do you need a pen? You need a biro? What do you need? He goes, I know this UFC belt here. No, Chael. He goes, too late, Ant. I've already got it. So I called Dana White, and I'm like, and I didn't say, hey, Dana, did you ever watch WWE Primetime when you were a kid? Because I knew he didn't like pro wrestling, which is ironic because now he's part owner of a pro wrestling company. Yeah. But I was like, Chael's going to show up with a belt and insist he's the real world champion. He goes, what? I was like, Chael's got a UFC belt. He goes, how did he get that? I'm like, I guess you could say it was my fault. He goes, okay, cool. And that was it. He was cool with it. Pretended he wasn't, but he was cool. He did the Ric Flair bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good TV, you know? Like, it really is good TV.
God, that is such
you asked me about Brock.
Yeah.
You asked me about Brock was an asshole to deal with.
Really?
No. Yes. Surprisingly not.
I mean, I'm not shocked by that. I don't know why I said really like that, because it sounds like the most believable thing I've ever heard. But I'd love to hear specifics on that.
Yeah, I mean, one is, I would hang out with UFC heavyweight champions, so I'd see them at work every day. Brock is a different size to these guys.
Yeah,
like I remember looking at his watch once and thinking, shit, I could probably wear that as a weird, funky 1980s retro belt around my waist. He was just big, and like his hands looked like pies with sausages sticking out of them. Just
well,
huge.
They made special gloves for him, didn't they? I think
they did. Yeah, him and Shay Carvin. Yeah, both of them.
Shane, wow. So you brought up three names here. You brought up Dana White, you brought up Ariel Helwani, and you brought up Brock Lesnar. Three.
I'm name dropping like shit. Yeah.
No. This is great, man. I'm marking out over here. So, those three gentlemen had an interesting conflict between them. Now, you, I don't know, what was for those of you who don't know, right? Like Brock Lesnar was returning at UFC 200. Ariel Helwani put the story out right before it happened. Dana White escorted Helwani out of the building, revoked his media pass, and he's never been allowed to really cover UFC like that ever since. Dana has since been gone to networks and been like, oh, we don't want this guy doing this, right? Like when Ariel started covering WWE because he was covering UFC for BT Sport, and then UFC started doing something with BT, and they're like, we don't want Ariel covering this shit. So then he started covering WWE, and to bring it back to pro wrestling. But just your perspective on like that conflict, and did you have any? Were you in communication with any of those three during that time, or
no? I was out of the PR game. I was fully in my day-to-day was Fight Pass then. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, Ariel and I spoke about this a couple of times. I mean, look, Dana didn't escort him out. He had him out to escort. I mean,
Right, security.
Maybe back then Dana could have escorted, but Ariel's kind of buff these days. Ariel's, I don't know what kind of cocktails that he's on these days, but Ariel is buff. I give him a hug if he hates it.
Shadow
Had a
boxing
good feel. Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ariel's in shape. These guys. Maybe Dana wouldn't be able to bounce him against his will these days. But yeah, I mean, like, this is regrettable. Look, this is where the sausage should have been made. Is if Ariel at the time had a better relationship with the UFC, and it's the UFC's fault that he didn't, he should have said, "Hey, I know Brock Lesnar's returning." Like I've had calls, not on anything quite so big as this, but I've had calls when I was head of UFC PR saying, and I know for a fact that this fight's happening. And at that point, you've got a horse trade. You've got to go, okay, that is true. But we have a big announcement where we want to surprise the fans. And basically what you do is you kind of appeal to their sense of like, look, it's going to be disappointing for the fans. You know, it's a little bit like if you go to a theater where it's showing The Empire Strikes Back and go, look, Vader's your fucking father, and you ruin it for everybody. You kind of appeal to that. And if they say, well, news is news, what you say is, okay, if you don't break it, this is where I can give you again. I can give you an interview with Brock immediately after. You'll have the exclusive Thursday interview with Brock, why he's coming back. You'll also get an interview with Dana about how this came about. And you see if they go for that. But things had broken down to the point there with Ariel and the UFC and Dana where he didn't bother approaching because they were actually lying. I mean, Brett Okamoto from ESPN asked Dana 2 days before the announcement, like, hey, we're hearing Brock's coming back. Is that true? It's like, nothing to it. Which he's entitled to do as a promo because they had a big reveal that they wanted to do, you know?
And that reveal was
so it's
awesome,
just regretful. Yeah, it's just regretful. And look,
did Brock himself have any heat with the fact that this was spoiled, or was it just mostly Dana and Ariel? Like with Brock, like, oh, Brock don't like Little Mermaid.
No, Brock didn't do. No, from what I understand, it was. I mean, Brock was getting paid. I don't think he gave a fuck.
Yeah,
Brock like money. Brock hate Little Mermaid.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
That's my Brock Lesnar. By the way, my Brock Lesnar is essentially like a Neanderthal Hulk. Yeah,
it's pretty good.
What are you saying?
Working with Brock was hard work. It was.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. Like I thought you were about to get into some specifics about Brock being a jerk.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yes, we'll get to it in a sec.
Yeah, so UFC. I think was it one? No, it wasn't 145. It was when he fought his first retirement fight, which we didn't know at the time, when he fought Alistair Overeem. ESPN back then would still not cover UFC. We're just it was just a flat no. So we said, hey, we'll provide the satellite truck. We'll give you a feed. We'll have Brock Lesnar in one room and Alistair Overeem, the 6'5", gargantuan man who can probably the only guy who can match Brock for strength in the UFC. We'll have them both on at once. ESPN bit, they did it. And the idea from then is we had an hour of satellite time. And there was going to be 15 minutes with Fox, 15 minutes with a big Canadian broadcaster, 15 minutes with an international broadcaster. Alistair came to me and Alistair, occasionally you get guys come and say, can you give me a line? Can you give me a line? Like Dana hated this stuff. But oh well, when you got someone who's nervous about going on TV and they're asking for a line, you help them out. So I was like, why don't you say you're going to kick his ass back all the way back to fake wrestling? So that's what Alistair said. That royally pissed Brock off.
Yeah.
After that ESPN interview, he got up, he's walking out the door, and God, I mean, talking about life in front of your own eyes, I kind of stood in front of him without really trying to make out that that's what I was doing. I don't want to get murdered. And he just kept walking. I was like, Brock, we got 4 more. He goes, maybe you do. And but away he went,
Brock, don't have 4 more.
No. I mean, it never occurred to me to offer him, to send him my girlfriend, respond to that. But yeah.
Okay, so this might be speculation. I'm assuming you don't have inside info about this.
Hold on 1 second. I just wanted to let everyone know. I see the super chats building up. While we're doing the interview portion here with Ant, I'm only going to be doing super chats involving that are questions for Ant, so I will get to the other ones later. We're just gonna, hold them until when they're more topically relevant. Sorry, Disc, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Okay, so the whole time I'm thinking while you're talking about Brock Lesnar being a dick and how he acts and stuff like that. As a wrestling fan, the only question that I have is, and you'll probably be able to give good insight into this, the SmackDown episode where Brock Lesnar was advertised and then Vince McMahon got fired, and then they said that he walked out, and then by the end of the episode he came back. A lot of people just came out and said that was a work. I never thought it was. I thought Brock Lesnar is the exact type of asshole who would take that opportunity to get as much more money as he could out of that.
Yeah.
Because it was supposed to be in his contract that he really only dealt with Vince McMahon directly. And now that Vince was gone, I saw, to me, it seems totally plausible that Brock Lesnar would said, I'm not going out there, and then hold him up.
Completely believable. From my perspective, completely believable.
That's what I thought. Because every time I bring it up, people are just like, no, it was a work. It was a work. Because people think everything's a work because it's wrestling. And most of it
might have been, but it's also, has Brock Lesnar got that in him? Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
To me, it looked like Brock miss Vince. Brock leave. Oh, wait. Brock not no way home.